Hi, Doug here from Old Man Cycling. So, a little bit of a story and a little bit of a repair. A couple of weeks ago, I'm off on a group ride, and we're about 20 miles in, and my back chain, the back sprocket, right, the rear wheel, was making all kinds of noise, jumping around. Couldn't quite get a good gear selection that it wouldn't be hopping around on me. And then one of the guys rode around behind me, and he's like, "Hey, your back chain cluster, your back block is just wobbling all over the place." So I pulled over the side. I thought maybe my skewer was loose or something loosened up. So I did what I could on the side of the road, which is really nothing. But we managed to get back to the parking lot, about 10 more miles, and I get the bike home, and I found out that the whole rear freewheel, the freewheel hub, was just all disintegrated on the inside. It was all coming apart, wobbling around, and you'll see that in the video. So I thought I'd put together a quick video on how to do this repair. This is the second time I've had to do this. The first time I had to repair just the two axle bearings, not the free hub itself. This particular one, the free hub came apart, but the axle bearings were fine. But in the repair, since I had it all apart, I replaced everything. So these are ZIPP 30 course wheels. These are about 8 years old, and they have roughly 40,000 miles on them. So, I think they lasted a good time. I think the bearings are actually a good design. It's a good design hub. I like it a lot. But things happen. Bearings wear out. Free wheels, free hubs wear out, and you have to do these repairs once in a while. Now, I purchased all the parts. You'll see all the parts. I've laid them out in the video. So the axle, the free hub, and I bought 2 new end caps. I already had the bearings, so I didn't have to buy those, but it ended up being about $130. When I had the bearings replaced, when I first got the wheels, you say about 8 years ago, about the first year and a half into riding, I did have to replace the bearings. And the bike shop charged me about $200 just to do a bearing replacement. So that was done, and I didn't need to do that, but since I had it apart, like I said, I did replace those bearings, and you'll see through the whole process here how to take it apart, how to clean out, how to install the new components, and how to put the sprockets back on. So I hope you enjoy this video. I had a pretty good time making it. It was a little difficult this time. I don't have my workshop anymore. We're kind of in transition between houses right now, so I'm kind of working out of a toolbox, and I'm working out of my office here. But we were able to get it done, and it came out very well. Thanks. So here you can see the hub itself, the free hub. The bearings are just cooked on this thing. It's wobbling all over the place. Imagine trying to ride the bike like this. But I had already taken this completely apart to analyze it, and I kind of put it back together just for the video. So here we'll just take the skewer out, put the parts off to the side. All right, and then you're going to need a couple of tools. You're going to need a free wheel removal tool. This is the Park Tool FR5. I'm not sure if anybody else makes them. They probably do. But this particular removal tool works for SRAM and Shimano. You're going to need a chain whip to hold the cassette steady as you unscrew the nut. And you're going to need a mallet with some soft tops on it, soft tips on it, to bang the axle out. All right, so hang on to the free wheel with your chain whip. There's different kinds of chain whips. This is just the one that I have. Like I said, I had already taken this apart. I didn't need a wrench to take that nut off. Did it by hand, and now just slide the stack of sprockets off of the free hub. I put a string through these to make sure I don't lose orientation or to lose any parts. So when this comes out, I'll put a string through it. So there's the free hub. It's all wobbly. It's all loose. You can just give it a yank. The ZIPP free hub, as you you can rotate it clockwise and pull it, and it pops off. And then to get the axle out, there's a bearing inside, an internal bearing, and a non-drive side external bearing. So if you bang on the non-drive side, or just really want to whack it, give it a couple of love taps. It came out, like I said, it came out easier because I already had this apart. But that'll just come right out. You're going to want to clean that entire hub out before you start to reassemble anything. So here's all the old components. You can see the axle here. That collar that I'm kind of pointing to right here, that's supposed to be inside the free hub. That's not supposed to come out separately. There's bearings that are holding that inside, and it's those bearings that failed. And you can see coming up that what's left of the bearings right there is the external race and a seal. The balls are gone. The internal race is seized onto the axle, preventing me from taking anything apart. The inboard bearing of the free hub is cooked also, so that you can't even get that apart. So I bought all new components. Like I said, I had the axle bearings, and that's what I just slid in right there, and this is the other axle bearing. When I put these together, I'm going to put them together where the red seals are facing inboard. That's how they were on the hubs from the factory. I bought 2 new end caps. They weren't that expensive, so I figured might as well just get a couple new ones. They were only 20 bucks or so to get those. And the free hub itself, like I said, that's an assembly. That collar is inside with the bearings, and that'll just slide on. So I pressed in the non-drive side axle bearing with the black seal facing outward. What I do is I use a little bit of a lubricant on any surface that I'm going to press a bearing onto. So the internal race of the bearings was sliding onto the axle. I use Phil's Tenacious Oil. I just think it works great. I'm going to use some on the outside race as well, because that's going to press inside the hub. So you're going to want a little lubricant. You don't want to push metal on metal when you're assembling this. So that's just going to slide in. It'll go in a certain distance, and then you're going to have to press it in. What I did to press it in is I had a socket that fit. You want to press on the outside, the outer ring, the outer race, not the inner race. So I just lined up a socket, and I just easily tapped it, and it slid right in place. So now that is assembled properly. Now here's the free hub. It has a seal that has to go on. This will pop over the pawls. Those are those 3 ratcheting things. They're on little leaf springs. They're called the pawls. That's what makes the clicking noise when you're coasting. You want to make sure that the seal isn't interfering with those, that it's pressed in against the aluminum hub as far as you can. You're going to want to put a little bit of lubricant on each of those pawls. On the leaf spring, just a little bit, not a lot. You don't want metal on metal when it's inside. And then I also add a little bit inside the spline ring, inside the hub. And I'll smear this around with my finger a little bit. All right, so now the free hub itself, that'll just slide right down over the end of that shaft. You can see I use my finger on the inside of the free hub just to align the sleeve inside. Line it up, and then rotate it counterclockwise as you're pressing down, and it'll snap right into place. So that's in there now. That's not coming out. That's in its correct position. All right, now we'll put the the end caps on, these little tiny hubs. The one with the smaller flange goes on the drive side. There's just a rubber seal inside. You just line them up and press them down. They feel like they pop into place. It's just a little rubber seal. And then the one with the larger flange, that goes on the non-drive side. And these do a couple things, right? So they're going to align your skewer into the center of the hub, the center of the axle. But they also, when you clamp up your skewer, they press on the bearings. They press on the outer ring of the bearing, keeping it all nice and tight and aligned inside. So there you go. That's all together. It was a pretty quick installation. Like I said, it's not a difficult job to do. Everything's nice and clean. All right. So now we cleaned all the sprockets in the back, the rear block. We took it apart. You can see here where there's stamped numbers. Those stamped numbers face outward in case you drop one and flips it around. This guy is a spacer. This is an 11-speed hub, but I only have a 10-speed rear block. So you have to put this spacer in place. If you have an 11-speed rear block, you don't need the spacer. All right, so the alignment is you look for the narrow slot, and that'll line up with the narrow slot on the free hub, and then just go ahead and start stacking your sprockets in, making sure you've got the spacers in the right position. That's why I line them all up and I try to keep them in order, because you'll go sprocket, then a spacer, and a sprocket, and a spacer, and there's like 3 spacers. The last couple of sprockets that go on have a built-in spacer. They've got their own little ring on them that keeps the space between the sprockets accurate. The last one's a little bit tough to find because you have to look at the back. You can't see it by looking through the front. All right, now you want to put the lock nut on. This is where you're going to need that tool again, but put a little bit of lubricant on there after you clean out the thread. You know, get it nice and clean. You don't want this to gall and seize up on you. You want this thread to be nice and clean. Put a little lubricant on there. Get it started by hand so you don't cross thread it. Use your free hub tool again. You can hear it clicking into place, and then you can just use a wrench. I get it pretty tight. I mean, you don't bear down too hard on it. You don't need the chain whip when you're tightening it because the pawls on the ratchet on the hub keep it from spinning. But there you go. That's all back together. So here we are, all finished up. This was a nice project. This is something I think everybody can do if you just. There's a few basic tools, but it's not real super complicated. But this really worked out well. Feels good. Got the skewer back in. Everything's nice and clean. I like to make sure I super clean everything before I start working and as it goes back together again. I'll get this back on the bike later on this afternoon, but this ought to be fine for another 40,000 miles again. But I enjoyed doing this repair. I do like working on the bikes. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, you can send any comments down in the comment section. If you like these videos, go ahead and like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.